Everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Gonna show you a couple of charts for Robinhood and SQ or blog. Gonna do it pretty quickly. Just want to do a quick update. I haven't done these for a while. For Robinhood, this is a quarterly chart. Each candle represents about 3 months of price action. And as you can see, ever since its IPO, right around the Q3 of 2021, it's just been plummeting, and since then it's been forming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inside candles that gets engulfed by this big bearish candle right here, and spent about a year and a half trying to break out of it. We just broke out of it this quarter. I mean, we still have another 5 trading days for the quarter. I don't really anticipate this to all of a sudden just drop back underneath. We have a breakout. And this breakout is pretty significant because of how powerful this 6 inside candle has been. A lot of energy has been really built up. If you just look at the monthly chart too, you can tell there's a significant amount of accumulation. Especially if you put up the volume, you can definitely tell that this is a very, very powerful accumulation pattern. There is a lot of selling pressure that already happened over here. Since then, the selling pressure really has been quite minimal. You know, every time you get buying pressure, these buying volumes go up. When you have selling pressure, selling volume goes down. Selling volumes go down. Buying volume goes up. Selling volume is pretty pathetic. Huge buy volume, breakout of this range right here. This horizontal range right here with pretty big volume here. So this is a pretty nice breakout for Robinhood. And I was making a lot of posts really starting around January, beginning of January, saying that, yeah, I want to accumulate Robinhood. I wasn't able to get the prices down here, but I was able to get like a cost average around 12, which I was very, very happy about. I mean, at this point, we already had a clear breakout. I don't like to chase things, but I do see a potential for some consolidation coming up soon. The reason why I say that is because this breakout, even though it's a very, very nice breakout, you can see that the Bollinger Band is very nicely expanding. You can see that the 20-month moving average is pointing up. It is kind of curling up together with the price. Now, there are a couple of things here. One is this is clearly beginning of a pretty powerful bull trend that can last for a while. It can last for months and months and months. But the thing about this monthly candle is that it's just a little bit far from the upper Bollinger Band right here. Ideally, I like to see the upper Bollinger Band continue to expand, allowing price to kind of go up higher. When you have the price kind of outside of the Bollinger Band, usually, and not always the case, depending on how impulsive and how great the underlying asset is in terms of its fundamentals, and also depending on how much momentum it has, and also depending on how much consolidation this has already happened over here, which is a ton of consolidation that has already happened over the last year and a half. So this breakout move could potentially be very, very powerful because people have been accumulating this stock for really over 2 years now. There is a potential for some temporary cool down next month, even though I do anticipate that fintech and small cap may do pretty well for April and May, but there might be a little bit of slowdown just simply because Robinhood is a little bit, went up a little bit way too far, way too fast. I could be wrong. The Bollinger Band continue to expand, and it can end up touching the bottom of the Bollinger Band or even go outside up of the Bollinger Band next month. If that's the case, then it really is, getting pretty overextended. I can see the potential for price to kind of go sideways a little bit. If that's the case, that would be a pretty nice range for some reaccumulation that can happen over here. Although there's never a guarantee, I'm just basically pointing out that things are a little bit overextended. It's a little bit overheated based on the fact that there's a little bit outside up of Bollinger Band here. There's a potential for it to kind of pull back. Now, the reason why I say that is if you look at something that is very, very similar to Robinhood, if you look at what happened here with Chainlink. With Chainlink, it also had a very, very substantial period of consolidation for about 2 years. We can see that price just basically went sideways for about 2 years. The area where we're really looking at right now is maybe around here, or maybe around here where price is touching up a Bollinger Band. The 20-month moving average is crawling up. But because price has just gotten way too far above the upper Bollinger Band, it went sideways for another month or so. Same thing over here. Price went way outside upper Bollinger Band, got pretty impulsive here. It didn't really go down to back test it, but it did have to take another month sideways to kind of take a little bit of a breather to wait for the upper Bollinger Band to kind of expand before it starts going up. So I wonder whether or not something similar could happen to Robinhood here, where you might be just a little bit overextended, and it might end up just waiting for another month or two before going up, or it doesn't have to, depending on how impulsive the small caps, depending on how impulsive the liquidity situation is coming, it can just keep going up, and it could end up having some pretty long consolidation after that. But I think I'm starting to see a little bit of sign here. I'm like, it wouldn't surprise me if Robinhood doesn't go up that much for the next month or two and just kind of go sideways and take a little bit of a breather. I could be wrong, though. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not selling out of it to chase other things. I mean, once I see a nice accumulation range like this, and I see that the Bollinger Band is fully expanded, I know that this I don't know anything. I think that this bull trend is going to last for quite some time. Another thing that got me quite bullish about it, and also another thing that got me a little bit concerned about being overextended, is if you pull up the Ichimoku Cloud, we don't have the Ichimoku Cloud yet for Robinhood because we just simply haven't had enough price history in terms of the monthly. But Ichimoku Cloud comes with a few different lines. One is this Tenkan line right here. The other one is the Kijun line right here. Tenkan line tends to be ahead. Kijun line tends to be delayed. So when you have the cross right here, generally it's a very, very bullish cross. And when you have something like this, generally bull trend can last for quite some time. You're talking about potentially months and months and months and months. Now, it did have a cross, but generally I like to see price kind of get pushed up by the Tenkan line, by the red line right here. You can see that it's been trying to flip it to, from resistance to support for over a year now. Finally is able to really use it as cemented as support and bounce from it. I would like to see the Tenkan line, at least at the beginning of the bull market, to get a little bit closer to price, because the further price is away from the monthly Tenkan, usually it tends to go sideways a little bit to try to let it kind of catch up. But regardless, we had a bullish cross. This is a very, powerful monthly bull trend that is being developed right here. So I'm not really that concerned about any potential price action, and there's also a possibility that I could be wrong. It might end up not going sideways, and it just end up keep going parabolic and just keep pulling the up Bollinger Band up all the way. There's always that possibility, and I don't want to be too cute about it. If you look at the weekly, the Ichimoku Cloud is not going to tell you so much anymore. I mean, ideally, I do like to see the Tenkan go up and get tested on the way up on the bull market. And sometimes it doesn't have to. It just eventually is going to end up correcting, going sideways a little bit, and it's going to end up having a little bit of correction. But another thing too, I think it is getting a little bit too far from the bull market support band, so I can see potentially going kind of a little bit sideways for 4 to 6 weeks or so, waiting for the band to kind of catch up before going up further. But again, it depends on how impulsive this bull market is. Over here, I didn't really even have to test the bull market support band for like months and months and months, and eventually back tested it as resistance, and right over here. But there's a potential we can just keep going up and up, but that wouldn't necessarily be healthy. I would like to see kind of a little bit sideways bump, kind of going up like that. We'll see what happens. But that's kind of my key thoughts on the Robinhood chart. If you want to pull up some of the other things to see whether or not there's any exhaustion of trend, if you just kind of look at the RSI on a weekly, that's also another reason why I think that things might be a little bit too much heated here, because the RSI has just kind of gone way too far, way too fast. If you look at the monthly, though, I still think that we're pretty far away from being overheated. So I think that, you're going to end up having probably a little bit of sideways, just kind of cool down the weekly RSI before going up further. But I do see that, things are a little bit overextended. Don't get me wrong. It can keep on being overbought for a very long time. And you can end up having a little bit of, like bearish divergence here, where price goes up, the RSI kind of resets a little bit. You can have a little bit this bearish divergence here, and price can continue to go a lot higher on bearish divergence. So don't get me wrong, just because I see overbought signal, it doesn't mean that this is like the overall market top or anything like that. It just means that I think most likely it needs to kind of cool down a little bit, which is a completely healthy thing to expect for, a stock like this that has just recently broke out at the beginning phases of the bull market. Now, but there is not really any key bearish divergences or anything like that that I'm seeing. So I don't really see a trend exhaustion. I just see it potentially needing to cool down a little bit more. I don't even know where I would draw the price targets, to be honest, because in general I like to use some of the other things to try to figure out where price is. One of it is the Fibonacci targets. The other thing would be looking at would be more like the volume shelf or the anchor volume profile. So you can put up the anchor volume profile here. Prices spend majority of the time really down here below $20. There's a little bit of price history up here, so I can see it being some resistance up here in the 30s or so. I do think most likely it needs to consolidate down here a little bit further before going up. And once it does that, the price movement could potentially be a little bit explosive because there really aren't that much volume shelf resistance over here. But who knows? And in terms of drawing Fibonacci levels, it's really hard for me to tell where do you draw from the top or do you draw from the bottom. If you end up drawing there's a significant level over here around 20 or so, right? So I've used this level here and I draw that all the way down to the bottom of the stock. You can see that it's kind of hitting, that's the same level over here. And I would imagine the next levels to hit would be around 26, maybe around 40 or so. So you can potentially use that as guidance, but it's really hard. Normally if there's a cycle top, I like to use that as a guide, but I just don't want to do this because this is a little bit, ridiculous. I don't necessarily think that it's gonna hit these targets anytime soon if I just draw it all the way from the very, very top going down. Although if you do it this way, you do see that we're kind of getting over a little bit of the 0.136 Fibonacci levels, and then 25, 36, these are potential targets going up. I would more look at a volume shelf and see where it's been trading hands the most, and right now it's telling me around $34, which is right around the time when it started IPO, and you spend a few weeks here before going down. So I can see price consolidate over here at this big volume shelf right here, and then potentially go up pretty fast, going up to low 30s. It depends on what. Obviously, this is more of price exploration, so it's kind of a little bit hard to predict, right? But those are kind of the things I'm seeing. But anyway, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit from Robinhood. I'm gonna talk about another stock that I also own, also started having a position in, which is SQ. SQ, the monthly chart is pretty nice. It basically just looks like the exaggeration of the of IWM, the small cap indexes. It basically looks very, very similar to this, but it's a little bit of an exaggerated version. When price dropped down here, and when I was able to see a trend line over here, I really thought that it was forming a descending, broadening wedge. And it ended up doing that, ended up bouncing from here and ended up going back up to here, consolidate a little bit in challenging the top of this wedge right here. So far, challenging once, twice, not able to break up. I think the third time's probably a charm. If it's not able to do that, it could potentially go down a little bit before going up. But so far, I like this look. It's changing trend. It's now starting to form a little bit of a higher low, and it's trying to find a little bit of a higher high here. So I see that the trend is changing. And if you look at some of the indicators, you just put up the Bollinger Band here, you can also see that it's telling you the same thing. The Bollinger Band is starting a little bit, expanding a little bit. The 20-month moving average is starting to curl a little bit. And the price, majority of the time now, over the last 3 or 4 months, on the top part of the Bollinger Band here, which tells me that this is the development of a potential bull trend that's happening. The other thing to look at too is if you pull up the Ichimoku Cloud, this is not yet having a full bullish cross like the Robinhood has, but regardless, it has flipped this monthly Tenkan line from resistance down to support, and now the Tenkan line is nicely curving up as potentially a support. If it doesn't find, or if you find resistance here being a little bit too difficult to break through, you can potentially come down and you have a nicely curling up Tenkan to kind of help push the price up further. So I think that regardless whether or not it breaks up and maybe find a little bit of resistance up here, back test this wedge and go up, or whether or not it need a little bit more power to kind of break out and back test before going up. It doesn't really matter to me. I think both paths are valid and are likely to happen. And right now, technical is kind of supporting that to happen as well. So those are the two kind of things to show you on. In addition, the monthly Ichimoku cloud, if this pattern is to work out, there's a potential by late 2024 or early 2025 for price to hit triple digits. You're talking about potentially to the bottom of the cloud right here where it might get some major resistance. I think this is probably going to be coinciding with around like 130 or so at the volume shelf over here. Before it does that though, it does need to break out of this big volume shelf down here. The top of the volume shelf down here is probably around 89 to 93, some kind of range around here. But I do think that if price is able to break above, maybe do a little bit of back test here and back test there, I think it could potentially go to like 120s, 130 to the bottom of this Ichimoku cloud here for the remainder of the year 2024, even like early 2025, I think is entirely possible because it is developing a little bit of a bull trend here. Now, in addition to looking at the monthly, if we also just pull up the weekly chart, the weekly chart is also telling you a very, very similar picture. On the weekly, I can pull out the bull market support band, which consists of the 20-week simple moving average and the 21-week exponential moving average. You can see that the band is pointing up. So even if it's not able to break through resistance over here, you could potentially come back down and kind of back test a little bit and use that as support to push the price up further. Now, in addition to that, you're also really starting to talk about, you might have these moving averages, the 20, 50, and 100 starting to kind of bundle together. 20 is already crossed both 50, which is blue right here, and 100, which is black right here. And I would also like to see 50 crossing over the black over here too, which is a potential reason why I think that 20 may not be sufficient enough to push price up higher. It might potentially come back down to test the 50 and 100 as it forms like a bullish cross to use that as a support to bounce price up higher. I don't really care at this point. I mean, I'm at this point I'm seeing these bullish structures here. Even if it goes back down here, it's still going to be a higher low compared to that. You just recently formed a higher high, so to me it doesn't really matter. This is a bull trend, and I like to see this keep on developing a bull trend, regardless of whether or not it goes back down and kind of back testing a little bit, if I have a higher, longer term horizon, which I do. The other thing to look at is the Ichimoku cloud for the weekly. It's over the cloud finally. This is a little bit busy. I'm going to turn off the bull market support band here. It's over the cloud finally, convincingly, after good earnings, and is using the weekly Tenkan and trying to push price up higher. So I would not be surprised if it goes back down and actually use the Kijun here as a little bit of a support to kind of push up higher a little bit. I would actually not be surprised at all if it actually just touched the top of the cloud here and form a wick, and that would still be a little bit a higher low. I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to do that though, because this is a bull trend. You're going to have to give bulls a benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to trade these little small range right here. I'm just going to ride it out because I see the ultimate target, depending on which path it takes, is still kind of going up here to like the 120s is what I'm seeing. So I'm not going to be too cute about it. The other thing to pay attention to is for this stock, I'm going to go back to the monthly here. For this stock, if you want to look at targets, in addition, just looking at the volume shelf, I actually like to look at the Fibonacci levels for this one, because these targets are actually, not unreasonable to reach. So far, you're talking about the Fibonacci retracement levels of potentially getting to 0.382, which is roughly around where I think the top, the bottom of the monthly Ichimoku cloud is located. If I pull up the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud, there's a little bit of confluence up here. At the bottom of Ichimoku cloud in the 0.382. So there's a potential where price might end up landing there before finding some, major resistance up there. Or there could also be potential that price could end up getting a lot of resistance right around here, around $100. I'm just going to round it up, 98.5. I'm just going to round it up to like $100. And it can end up causing some resistance here and cause a back test of this descending broadening wedge before going up further. So those are kind of the two major resistances that I'm seeing. And we'll see what happens. I still think this is a bull trend, so I'm still hopeful that what I'm thinking is probably gonna work out. But we'll see. Nothing's ever for certain. We are just making our best educated guesses here. A couple other things too. If you look at the things like RSI, there's a little bit of bearish divergence. You can see prices going up a little bit, whereas the RSI is kind of resetting a little bit. So there's a little bit of bearish divergence. So that wouldn't surprise me if we make a little bit of a small look down before going up to kind of help reset this kind of bearish divergences. But it doesn't all. But these bearish divergence doesn't always have to work out. And the price can keep going up higher on bearish divergence. But that's a little bit of bearish divergence that I'm seeing. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of like bullish divergence per se. On the monthly, I'm definitely not really seeing any major concern, bearish divergence or anything like that. But on the weekly, I do see a little bit. So that does make me think that there increases the chance of it kind of coming down a little bit before going up higher. But it doesn't have to. The key thing too, though, is that if I just go back to the monthly, there's another indicator I can use for Square that I cannot use for Hood. On the monthly, because the stock has been around for a long time now, you can actually look at the L3, the Blackhead L3 Bankrupt Month Flow Trend Oscillator, which tells you whether or not big money is having inflow versus outflow. You can see that we have a buy signal here in February 2024, and since then there's just been increase in inflow into the stock. So even if price goes sideways, there's an increase in inflow of whales. That tells me that this might be what's necessarily might be more like a reaccumulation range, and that could potentially lead to higher explosive prices up. So this is generally a pretty favorable thing, because I'm seeing a little bit of divergence of whales having inflow, but the price just really not going too much explosively. But this is just I think it's just a start of the inflow trend going up. Most likely it's going to keep going up further if you give it enough time. I cannot show you that for Robinhood because Robinhood the stock just hasn't really been around for that long. So I'm not able to put up the indicator for that. But yeah, SQ is a little bit promising because of that. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind as well. Anyway, it's been over 20 minutes. Thank you for listening. Bye.